and recording. Welcome everyone to the monthly movie dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week we broadcast and review a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation from honest people. Today here with me, I have my brother, Brandon Bowlby.
How's it going?
And I am Shaun Bowlby here in Seattle. Brandon's in New York City. And today we're going to be talking about the new comedy, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. But first we're going to talk a little bit about stuff we've been watching. We don't really do that much, but today we just kind of wanted to bring up some stuff that we normally wouldn't get to review on this show. Some TV, some other stuff, maybe
some docs.
But yeah. So Brandon, why don't we jump right into it? Why don't you tell us about what you've been watching?
So I've been watching this documentary that I really enjoyed called Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry. It was distributed by Neon and released on Apple TV Plus. I'm a fan of Billie Eilish's music. I loved her album that came out 2 years ago now. I was a really big fan. So maybe this was like catered towards me, but I do think this is a film and a story that everyone could get a lot out of. She's it maybe changed the music industry in certain ways. The notorious story of her recording her entire album as 16 years old with just her and her brother in her parents' bedroom, in her bedroom, with just her brother on
at her parents' house. Yeah,
at her parents' house, and she won 4 Grammys. That's extraordinary. Like almost no money was spent on this album, as far as actual recording goes.
Yep,
and it's the entire world has listened to it. I remember when we talked about Moonlight winning for Best Picture at the Oscars. That film cost $2 million, and we were kind of like, no one has any excuses. Yeah. But this album Billie Eilish released and this documentary, as it shows, is nobody has any excuses in music, especially. You can do anything you want on any budget and have the whole world listen to it. It's a really cool story, and it's very personal. There's a lot of just footage in their house as kids of them just making the album, making music in their bedroom, and it's really cool footage just from their phones and stuff. So I highly recommend this.
Yeah. It sounds pretty cool. I've heard a bunch of stuff from several different people. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when we were kids and Zach would just have his Hi8 camera always going, walking around Marysville and just capturing whatever the hell he captured, and he then had a bunch of tapes of it, and it's almost like
one person happens to be famous, and that's the footage you get to make the documentary out of. Yeah, for sure.
Pretty crazy that's kind of the world we live in, where
it has.
You can just have such a well documented past of these famous people before they were famous.
Exactly. Her being only 16 years old, she's only been going through this since everyone's had phones now, so you get to see all of it. It's pretty long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, so I think you do need to be a little bit of a fan of her, but it gives you great insight on the world of independently produced music. She's pretty dramatic, and she's going through a lot. You know, she's a very angsty teenager, and so you do have to see her go through a lot of emotions, and at the same time being one of the most popular and famous singers. And it's hard to see her complain so much, but I'm sure she's feeling a lot. And you do garner some like sympathy for her as she goes through this journey. It's a really interesting story.
Yeah. Sounds really cool. The show, so I've kind of been watching. I haven't finished it yet, but there's a little TV show that I hadn't heard of until recently. My sister-in-law actually made us watch it, or didn't make us, but she suggested it to us, and we watched it over at her place a couple weeks ago. It's called Staged. Have you heard of this, Brandon?
I have not at all.
So this movie released, I believe sorry, not movie. This BBC TV series originally released in June of 2020, and it is it's kind of hard to describe. It takes place during the pandemic, right as the pandemic hits. Let me start over. It's a comedy about a BBC comedy starring David Tennant of Doctor Who fame and Michael Sheen, who's like someone everyone recognizes him, but he's in so much stuff. And the premise is right when the pandemic hits, they were supposed to be doing a play together in London. This is kind of a small play. And the director of the play has this idea that they will start to rehearse this play over Zoom because they're all quarantined in their house. And he has this idea they're going to meet up on Zoom every day and they're going to rehearse this play. And then that way, when the pandemic blows over, they're going to have a play ready to go and they're going to be first out of the gate in London, get one of the big houses or theaters, and they're going to be ready to go. And but the thing is like there's some pretty big personalities, and this guy is way in over his head. This director is way in over his head, and he is trying to direct. He is a child trying to direct a bunch of children. And it is just extremely funny. It's all shot from what looks like just their phones or just on their computers over Zoom. So it's like, a big part of the show is actually just kind of that Zoom meeting look on the computer. And it really just kind of rests on these really great performances by the main characters, especially David Tennant and Michael Sheen. They also bring in both of their real life wives. So Georgia Tennant and I forget the other one's name, David Tennant's wife. But they're also in it, and so they're all just kind of doing this thing together. Just
so
over
this is
Zoom.
Only a show that could exist in a world that's going through quarantine.
Yeah,
COVID,
definitely.
Right?
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's a really fun look at kind of look back at our quarantined life, and kind of the craziness and like how everyone was dealing with it, but it's just really funny. That's
such a good concept, unique structure for a show.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely recommend it. I haven't watched the whole thing. It looks like there's about 13 episodes so far, if I saw that correct. And yeah, check it out. It's on Hulu for free, but I believe you can purchase it for fairly cheap in other places.
It's a good recommendation. I'm sure not a lot of people have heard about it.
I was surprised when I first saw it. So definitely check it out. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, Brandon? Any other little?
That's the one big one I wanted to throw out there.
Cool. Let's I guess jump into Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
I just want sound effects for that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a new movie directed by Josh Greenbaum, and it's written by Annie Mumolo, and Kristin Wiig, and it's also starring Annie Mumolo and Kristin Wiig, which they famously co-wrote Bridesmaids together.
Right.
The incredibly famous Bridesmaids. And the plot description is: lifelong friends Barb and Star embark on the adventure of a lifetime when they decide to leave their small Midwestern town for the first time ever.
What do you think, Shaun?
Yeah, so I think I wanted to set up real quick. There's not much plot in this movie.
No.
There's nothing really to spoil, but I did want to. I think what we're mostly going to be talking about is some of the jokes and some of the the bits and a bunch of the scenes. So I think I wanted to do first impressions. Get your impression. I'll give my impression. And then we'll do a light spoiler warning, and then just kind of go off talking about all the scenes that we enjoyed, what we thought was really funny about the movie. So yeah, I guess I'll go first. I thought what was really interesting about this movie, I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But what was
definitely
what was unique about it, I thought, is that it's almost written. I don't know how written it was or how exactly the process was for this movie, but it feels very much as if you are just watching a live improv show. And what I mean by that is, I don't know how much improv you've seen. I haven't seen a ton, but I was fortunate enough, actually, right before the pandemic, to go to Los Angeles and see quite a bit of improv down there. It's some pretty famous improv theaters in schools. But it's just the way that the story plays out. And the free-flowing nature of it, and it just kind of goes off on these weird tangents for however the hell long that they want to go off on it for, and for however long it's funny for, before they like immediately pivot back into something completely different. And the way like jokes come back around, and
it's kind of like campy bluntness on its overall plot points.
Yeah, definitely. Like
you see them coming as if they're about. Of course, the improv is going to have to hit this note here and that note there.
Yeah,
because it's the obvious character arcs.
Yeah, and then but also like the way that the story builds, and goes in the weird directions. It's almost as if, like. Like that game where you're trying to tell a story like one sentence or one word at a time, and then you just have to keep going. Like come up with something else based on what the previous person has said. And so like the story just kind of bobs and weaves in these such weird directions, and it builds. It's like someone will it'll just throw in a weird, crazy concept, and then the movie will just have to build on that. It's like, it's a very yes and type of free flowing type of movie. But yeah, so that's what I thought was really great about it. Obviously, like the improv of Kristin Wiig, we all know, like Judd Apatow's crowd, and even Bridesmaids made that kind of improv style comedy, kind of adult comedy type movie really famous. But this movie really,
I do feel like it's a little bit tighter than the Judd Apatow improv, but there are plenty of scenes and shots that do go on, but it's not quite as lingering as the specific older Judd Apatow stuff. But anyways,
definitely. And yeah, it's so fast paced. It moves so quickly. But yeah, what were your overall thoughts? What did you think?
Overall, I thought this was like a super refreshing comedy. Obviously, it's not original or all that unique. You've seen stuff like this before, maybe in the further distant past than more recently. I'd say possibly like the most similar stuff is Austin Powers, maybe.
I was thinking, did you ever see, what's it called? American Summer? What is it? It's like...
Wet Hot American
Summer. Yeah,
definitely had the randomness of Wet Hot American Summer. Also the randomness of the goofiness of Austin Powers, and the kind of more like Bond, like supervillain sidekick adventure and sex, and as the Austin Powers stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess it's not necessarily original, but it felt refreshing. It felt like I hadn't been in this type of a comedy in a long time, and it was really great just to live in this hilarious campiness for an hour and 45 minutes. and not have to like worry about much else besides whatever these, writers are going to throw at you next. So I really did love that about this film. I think, I don't necessarily know if anyone is saying this. Maybe I'm just like heard the slash film say this, but I don't necessarily think this is like God's gift to comedy, this film. And maybe Jeff and Devindra on the notorious slash filmcast, the only people who actually are saying that right now. I do think it does suffer from some like comedic downfalls that happen in a lot of movies, specifically like even Judd Apatow movies, where they get less funny as they go along. They stop introducing, new characters and wackier ideas. And they focus more on like the adventure plot, which just inherently isn't as funny as the setup usually is. So I think it does still suffer from some of those downfalls that a lot of comedy adventures do suffer from. But overall, it's like it's still fun. And it's still quirky, and you are still enjoying what's going on, even in the climax.
Yeah. It's not a long movie, but I think it was an hour or hour 47 minutes, and it could have been trimmed down a little bit. I would definitely agree with that. Like a really
they
tight
spent a lot of time on the intro.
Yeah.
But I also liked the intro.
Yeah. Actually, I loved like the first whole half of the movie. I was busting up laughing.
It
was still funny. It was definitely still funny.
Vista Del Mar.
Yeah, Vista Del Mar.
Vista Del Mar.
Yeah, definitely. I still thought the second half was really fun and funny too. There's some really great moments throughout, but I do kind of agree it focuses a little. But it's like it's so not much of a plot. It just kind of starts doing some other stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, more character emotions.
Or maybe just kind of more
action adventure.
Those kinds of jokes start getting a little old or yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, these two writers are notoriously known for writing Bridesmaids. And I still think that is a stronger comedy all around. I think I enjoy that movie more, and maybe that even made me laugh harder at points. But it's cool that they're still like together and they're still pushing this many like boundaries and this full of creativity to come up with this bonkers of a story.
Definitely. Yeah, I do. It's just like I can't imagine the process of writing this. It just see the craziest directions that we can take the movie and just trust that we're going to make it funny, I guess. And I have to say also like the performances of those two, the way that they talk and the way that they talk over each other and the way that they like say the same things. It's so good. And they're so quick. And,
this reminded me a lot of, like, Hi, Hello on Netflix.
Oh, the Broadway Oh, Hello?
Yeah, and I'm blanking on the two SNL cast members that did that.
It's Nick Kroll and John Mulaney. I don't think they were
Yeah,
SNL.
It reminded me the way of they are just like so tightly wound as like real life friends and improv actors that they can just finish each other's sentences within like this comedy. And yeah, the way Barb and Star interact with each other and are just like their dialogue is just on top of each other at all points. It really reminded me of John Mulaney and their stuff as well.
Definitely.
I was curious, is this an SNL previous character? Or is this original?
I don't know. I'm not super familiar with SNL and Kristen Wiig on SNL, but it definitely has that feeling like they would these two characters would be these wacky reoccurring people on SNL.
I do want to read, Nick wrote down here since we're kind of talking about SNL. Nick Stamen, one of our friends of the pod, at the beginning, Nick says, at the beginning, I shrugged and thought, this is one SNL sketch. This is one SNL sketch stretched over an entire movie. I was getting those vibes in The Small Town as well, Nick. He said, as I got more invested, I wondered if this was based on anything. Then it just kept getting bigger and wackier. And it turned out I love the big concept comedies. Reminds me of Josie and the Pussycats. Did you ever see that film?
I did not. No.
Yeah, me neither.
Very 90s.
I've heard a lot about it. I didn't know it was that wacky of a film.
Me neither.
But yeah, I was definitely getting a lot of great sketch comedy SNL vibes at the start.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep wanting to bring up like jokes and scenes right now. But I'm like, keep
well, I think it's clear we both recommend the movie. I mean, I will say I don't know if it's necessarily for everyone. I'm fully aware that there's going to be people who are going to think this is too weird, too bizarre. It's too dumb. There's no plot.
It is too dumb.
It goes for too long. But yeah, if you can buy into it, it's really funny. It's a total blast. Yeah, and I recommend it. It's available for premium. Is that premium rental? I don't remember. I think we got it for like $6.
Yeah, it's like $5.99.
Yeah. So check it out if you're interested. If you've already seen it, stick around and maybe relive some of the jokes. And if you don't want to see it, maybe stick around and see what you're missing. Spoiler alert. So yeah, what were some of your favorite jokes?
I did want to bring up some fun, creative, like filmmaking techniques in jokes, and like this is something we talk about with like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or Shaun of the Dead style director, and I'm blanking on his name.
Edgar Wright.
He's able to make like jokes within his filmmaking and not necessarily with the actors and their dialogue.
Yeah, like the camera can be one of the funniest characters in his movies.
Yeah, and I was loving the like editing of the kind of introduction of the characters when it kind of just like shows their fingers tapping because they're just these like kind of quaint like midlife women, and they just kind of tap their knees when something like a good beat's happening. Like, or there's these weird close-up shots of their just shoulders like wagging, and it was like cut in the middle of dialogue too. Like it didn't exist there, but they were just showing it to us. There's like really good stuff like that.
Even like the very opening was the kid riding the bike. And then the music kind of starts up and he just like starts singing along with the music, and then it like all stops and gets really intense, and he throws the newspaper, and then he keeps right
like,
on
what
going.
Is going on with this weird kid?
But it was so funny. If you can buy into it, just like the movie right off the bat is really fun. I love that kind of stuff.
There was one like filmmaking technique they did with when they both went to visit the evil love interest like at night and were deceiving each other. They repeat the exact same camera angles and shots, and they even like repeat the same like background characters doing the
same ice cream cone and
the couple kissing each other. It's like totally outside of the existence of reality, but like for some reason it's a joke that works really well.
Just like there's so many of those. It's such a simple joke, it doesn't really make any sense, but like the way that they pull it off is so funny, and the way that they it's almost like the way that they commit to it is what's so funny, because and it's one of those things where if you do something like there will be I find this really funny in a lot of situations where there will be like a joke and it's kind of funny and you kind of chuckle, and then they do the joke again and then they do the joke again, and you're like, okay, all right, I get it. It's getting annoying now. And then they keep doing it, and then they commit so hard to it that it wraps back around, and it's like even way funnier than the first time they did it. And that I feel like this movie did that so many times. Like,
what's your favorite?
I mean, one that just pops into my head is them getting out of the rope. Like they're both tied up.
Oh God,
And the joke is just that they're tied up and they're trying to get out of the knots. And he's like off monologuing, looking out the window, and every time he turns around, they're like progressively more out of the knots. But then it's such a simple, dumb joke.
They do it 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. And then it at some point it just becomes so funny again. That was one of my favorites.
By the third time you understand exactly what's happening. You're like, okay, that's the last time. Yeah. Fourth time you're a little annoyed, and then the fifth time they do it, you're back to laughing again.
And then they take it farther than you ever thought they would take it, and it just gets so funny.
Yeah. One of my absolute favorite part of this film is a much simpler part towards the beginning, before they get wrapped up in the adventure, is just them at their talk club. And they got in the A-list of just their comedic friends who are just have the best faces and the best reactions, because every single person in that club that's sitting around the couches is just absolute gold in their performance. I was cracking up. Well, I was by myself, so I guess I wasn't laughing that hard. It's kind of hard to crack up when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
But I was thoroughly enjoying that scene, and every single line of dialogue and facial expression from those characters was them locking the girl out because she's a happy second. And then towards the end of the scene, she's still out there listening, trying to be included.
Yeah, and then the hot dog soup. The
hot, God, she's slowly pouring the most disgusting looking. So there's so much detail.
Yeah.
Or her sock, and she puts what's her name, Meredith from The Office's face. She's showing
her
sock, her foot just keeps getting closer and closer to her face for no reason.
Yeah.
Meredith's obsession, I call her just Meredith, but her obsession with horses, and even at the end, she just picks up a saddle off of the back.
Oh, I didn't catch that, actually.
Yeah, she just picks up a saddle before she's leaving, and just walks out with the saddle.
Yeah, I mean,
there's just so much detail.
I feel like a lot of that is that scene felt so improv.
Oh shit! Sorry, I said Meredith.
Yeah,
thanks,
you keep
Nick.
saying...
It's Phyllis.
Yeah, I tried to correct you, Brandon, but you
sorry.
were having none of it.
On a rant.
But yeah, that scene felt so much like an improv. They're at the setup of this sketch is of this skit is you're at Talk Club, and then okay, go, and then there's 2 people, and then they start doing this thing, and then more people come in, and each character or each person just out of nowhere invents this totally wacky, bizarre character. And then they just commit to it, and they're all kind of almost fighting for attention in the scene.
Yeah.
And they're all trying to one up each other, and just take the skit or just take the bit that they have in their head for their own character as far as they can. That scene was great.
I swear there's so much detail in that scene. That could have been a movie. Or all the adventures of them in this town alone and their talk club could have been a movie.
Yeah. So, I think the funniest joke for me by far was Trish.
Okay. Well, it comes back around. Is this so as a whole?
Yeah, the whole Trish. It was it was so good, and that's another example of you do it once, it's kind of funny. You do it a second time, it's okay, I get it. And you do it the third time, and it is just take it so ridiculously far. How they're just the entire airplane flight from where were they? Somewhere in the Midwest, maybe 5-hour flight from somewhere in the Midwest to Vista Del Mar, Florida. They're just talking about their favorite name is Trish, and they just talk about
that they discovered at the same time.
Yeah. And they're just making up who Trish is and what someone with the name Trish is like. And then by the end they're just they're I think the last one is they're actually leaving the airport, or they're walking out of the airport, and they're just crying because of who Trish is and how good of a person Trish is. And
when they're going down the escalator. Yeah.
That was so great.
And then Trish ends up saving their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was like the only way that scene could have played out. It was like, how are they going to write themselves out of this moment? They have to bring in Trish.
Yeah. What did you think of Jamie Dornan?
Who is that? The main guy character?
50 Shades of Grey stud.
I thought he was great for them to bounce their jokes off of. I think he did. He was a muscly guy to bounce their jokes. I really liked how he played that straight character, and
I think he did a decent job.
Yeah,
I looking too much into it because he did fine enough. I think I felt like I could feel him being self-conscious at times of the situations they were putting in.
You know what it kind of reminded me of? I'm gonna real quick.
Like I felt like he maybe didn't have faith in the movie. And a few times he was like, "You're really making me do this."
Have you seen Duck Soup? The Marx Brothers Duck Soup?
No.
It is so fucking funny.
Okay.
But it actually reminded he reminded me a little bit. There's a woman in, actually I think a bunch of their movies, and they just hired her. I think the story that I heard is they just kept hiring her because she had at no point any idea what they were doing. And like I don't know if you've seen any Marx Brothers, but they're so quick-witted, especially Groucho Marx. He's so fast-paced, quick-witted, and he is 3 jokes ahead of you before you even understand what's going on. But yeah, she was just there. She was, playing this kind of slightly uptight lady, and there's just a whirlwind of jokes going on around her. And she's just like kind of out of her element, but it's so funny to see. And that definitely reminded me of how they worked that into their act.
I'm on board. I think I'm just looking a little too into it, but I also really liked the musical numbers. I thought the first one, when they get there, like just had I kind of liked the music. Like started out cheesy and then it got really epic, and then by the end it like slowed down and got kind of beautiful. It like went through this whole arc in like 2 minutes. And his song was actually pretty hilarious, of how it was just like self-referencing every shot that he was in. Climbing the tree and the seagulls standing on rocks, and that was somehow they made the musicals work.
Definitely. And then the end of that first musical number just being that, they're in the wrong hotel.
The shittiest motel across the street.
It was funny.
Yeah.
It could go on.
I mean, can I do a couple nits?
Sure.
I thought that they should have saved our 2 leads coming together for the moment when they're underwater looking at each other. It was weird that they repeated the same character moment of them forgiving each other like twice. And the more significant, like first with the alligators, they like totally forgave each other. And then again, when they were like under the water about to die, I think if they had like combined the 2, it would have been actually felt like kind of significant. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. I get you.
So when they're underwater, like just looking at each other and like almost silently forgiving each other, like, if they had just combined that moment with the underwater like visuals, it would have been really perfect. Yeah. It would have actually given me the feels.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know how much I was really thinking about any kind of character stuff. I mean, having said that, I really liked their characters and their friendship and how tight they were as friends, and like how unquestionably unconditional their friendship was.
They had like a ridiculous 3-way and didn't even care.
Yeah.
Like it didn't phase them much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anything else I also think like there were probably a few nits that I would pick. There's probably a few scenes that I didn't think was very funny, and probably could have done without. But at the same time, I feel like that's all a part of improv comedy. And I think this movie, I think this movie nails that feeling so well, and is willing to take those risks in those weird scenes that don't make any sense and kind of are a little awkward. But yeah, I think if they had cleaned up a lot of that stuff, it wouldn't have been the movie wouldn't have been the same. But yeah,
Nick's asking a good it sounds like we are coming to a closing, but Nick's asking in chat, what star rating would we give it?
Oh man, I don't even know. I mean, it is like, what star rating would you give that improv comedy show that you just watched? It's like I rate movies on a completely different scale. But yeah, what?
Sorry if this is too low, but I would give it a really solid 3.5.
I think that's what I'm thinking too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, but then again, like, what even? How do you even compare it to a movie with a plot and characters? I don't know. It was really funny. I mean, it's like, yeah.
Right, if Bridesmaids is a 4, leaning 4.5, I think this one's a 3.5, leaning 4.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts? Any other scenes you wanted to point out? The Morgan Freeman scene, maybe the Morgan Freeman as a crab, and
oh man,
it was so weird.
Existentially walking off into the sunset.
Yeah.
God, I didn't even. That just came and went.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was maybe the furthest they pushed anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could go on about scenes forever.
Absolutely.
What do we got going on the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, next week we are doing the movie Bad Trip. We're gonna have Nick and Derek talk about the movie Bad Trip, another new comedy that I saw and I enjoyed. A little bit of a
I'm gonna check that out this week too. So
not
I can
to
watch
take anything away from Nick and Derek's review, but I did quite enjoy it. But yeah, that's what we got coming up. Check that out next Tuesday around 8:00. We'll probably go live. And be sure to smash that subscribe button and leave a comment in the notification bell. Let us know what you guys thought about the movie. Did you guys like it? Did you think it was too much? Did you think it wasn't enough? Do you think they should have pushed it farther?
Could be.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye.